Today's lesson is closely related with yesterday's lesson, where we were talking about how the things that we do really does affect other people, and how we have to not be so selfish and just kind of understand the bigger picture. Now, that can obviously be taken way far out, and there's a lot of people who guilt trip themselves and all this kind of stuff, and so they think that everything that they do is wrong instead of looking at it reasonably. And so that when they hear something like that, they say, "You're right. I'm just a screw up. I'm ruining everybody's life." And come on, put that kind of nonsense aside. You're not gonna get better if you just let your thoughts go crazy like that. Reel it in. Stop thinking about that kind of nonsense. You know it's not true. If you don't know it's not true, that means you've been lying to yourself, and other people have been lying to you for so long. You start believing it. You gotta let that stuff go. Whatever was done in the past, for good or for good or for bad, it's in the past. It's done. Okay, so don't use last lesson as a excuse to beat yourself up and to see yourself as worthless and just a waste of space, and that's nonsense. Stop letting your mind get the best of you. Okay, so today's lesson is very much so connected with yesterday's lesson, and once again it's kind of it's kind of a continuation. So it's still a little bit of things that were hard for me to learn because I didn't want to admit the possibility of being wrong. And getting past my own ego and my own pride was something that definitely did help me to see the bigger picture. It's easier to complain about a problem than it is to fix a problem. That's just much easier. But unfortunately, complaining about things doesn't really help you to achieve anything. It doesn't help anything to change about the situation. It just helps you to be fully aware of the problem and aware of all its intricacies, but that's all it does. So today's big idea is bad decisions will always yield bad results. Bad decisions will always yield bad results. Now, in our ego, we like to think that we never do anything wrong. And that's going to really come back to bite us when it comes to things like overcoming anxiety and depression, getting past our own mental, psychological hangups, getting through addictions, letting go of pornography, all these different things. We always want to blame everybody else, I'm into porn because my wife doesn't show me enough love. Because every time that I try to initiate something, she always says that she's too bored or too tired or whatever. So it's okay for me to do this wrong thing because it's all her fault. Well, depression. If my parents would have encouraged me more as a child, I would have been. You see what I mean? Stuff like that. It's like, okay, so let's look at this. Okay, sometimes we feel bad in life emotionally because we keep making a stupid decision over and over again, and we somehow expect for it to have a different result. And so because we keep making the stupid decision over and over again, we keep having the same results, then we get frustrated. So we keep doing it, hoping that somehow it'll make a different reaction. Here's an example right here. I actually see this all the time. I'm dating this guy who is abusive. He doesn't love me. He doesn't support me. Um, you know, so I get out of this relationship, and then I get with this guy, and he's gonna make it. See what I mean? The lesson hasn't been learned. You don't need a sex buddy to live. You don't need that. It's not a need. And once you learn that you don't need other people to be happy, that there's a big difference there. You don't need that sex mate. So then you go into another abusive relationship, and it's like, this should clue you in that there's something in you that you need help. Okay, if you do the same thing that's causing you physical harm, and even to the point of many women dying from it, it comes to a point where you have to say, this, I think I need psychological help. And, and I'm not saying women are the only ones who do this. I'm definitely not saying that. That was just the example that I'm going to be using. So sometimes we feel bad because we keep making stupid decisions, and then it keeps giving us the same result. So, okay, like the example of the abusive relationship. Oh, he loves me, even though he hits me. Let me tell you something. If some guy genuinely loves you, if he's not a complete pile of trash, he won't hit you. Men don't hit women. Even if a woman hits a man, men do not hit women. That's something that a child does. And if you're with a guy that hits you and then excuses the behavior or makes it out like it's your fault, That's on him. That's not on you. Now, what I unfortunately see a lot of times is this kind of very very unhealthy development that happens where the woman will try and antagonize the guy into hitting her. And then when he hits her, she'll be, oh, I'm the victim. And then he'll say, no, baby, I love you. And then she'll just kind of brush off his behavior. So it's kind of like this constant, like, both of them, helping each other to not mature. And that's definitely not a good place to be in. And I'm not trying to make fun of you if this is you. What I'm trying to say is that should be evidence to you that you definitely need to get help. I am not a trained counselor. I'm not a trained psychiatrist. I would highly encourage you going to a licensed professional because that kind of, especially when you get into stuff like S&M where it gets to be like a sexual arousal thing, that's really a sign of some very big problems that you're going to have to learn to work through. So anyways, don't excuse the behavior. It's just that I egged him on. He really loves me. If he really loved you, he wouldn't be hitting you. Stop excusing his behavior. Oh, well, I need him. He loves me. He's the only one who's ever there for me. Those statements are all 100% wrong. And once again, please, please get help. Or here's another thing that we do. Once again, a bad decision that yields a bad result, but we keep doing it. Oh, I can't get out. I can't get free. I can't get away from him. Well, it might be difficult, it might be dangerous, but yes, you can get away. And I would highly encourage you to get away because here's the thing, you're not safe in staying. Oh, well, if I try and get away, he'll catch me and he'll kill me. If you stay there, he'll kill you. There comes a point when it's like you're not doing yourself any favors. And then another thing that's kind of important is treat yourself with some respect. It's better to die free and brave than it is to live under his constant thumb. There comes a point when you have to say, no, I've been making some bad decisions and I'm having extremely bad results because I've made some bad decisions. Let's see what I can fix. So there are some ways to get out of an abusive relationship. Order pizza by calling 911. And you can do it very covertly. I do want to say this, always leave no traces. Always leave no traces. If you write something down, make sure that, just don't write stuff down. Don't leave a paper trail. If you message somebody, make sure you delete those messages and explain that for them not to mention it around you or to message back. If you write a letter, make sure that you don't have a return address. I mean, there's just so many different things that just make sure that there's no paper trail. Leave no traces. Another thing that you can do, which is kind of sneaky and it will make you feel very, very dirty, but it's better to feel dirty than to be dead. Have sex and then make sure that you wear them out. And then when they fall asleep, get out. Okay, now I'm obviously not condoning sex before marriage. I'm not condoning abusive relationships. But sometimes to get out of a bad situation, you got to be smart. Because check it out, he's going to be smart too. He's a manipulator. That's how he's getting you to stay. He gets you to think that he's the victim, that he's the one being abused when he's the one abusing. So you got to be smart because he's definitely going to be smart. Make sure that if you watch videos like this, make sure that you delete your browsing history. Make sure that you delete on YouTube make sure you don't like the video or anything like that, and make sure it's not like in your video history. I mean, people who manipulate people and who abuse people, they've got something off in there, and they'll go to great lengths and extremes to have absolute complete control over everything, and you really got to be careful. And I do want to encourage you, if you just get out of a relationship with an abusive and manipulating person, you need to not be in a relationship for a while because you need some time to recover and to learn who you are again, and then to remember and experience people who are just friends. Because sometimes when you get in a relationship, you start thinking that everybody's this way. I'm a drug addict who lies all the time, so everybody does drugs and lies all the time. That's all everybody does. Well, it's like, well, no, that's all the people do that you hang around with, and that's what you do, and so you see it more in other people because it's in you. Be careful with who you trust, and I cannot say this enough. Trust has to be earned. You don't go home with someone to have a one night stand. You don't do that. No, and I'm not just talking about for spiritual reasons about how it's totally immoral. I'm not even talking about that. When I am talking about is you don't know who this person is. Just because they smiled at you doesn't mean that they're safe. You don't know if they're abusive, if like they're crazy, if they're going to murder you. You don't know anything about this person. You don't know where they came from. Like maybe they told you a story at the bar. Well, newsflash, bars aren't the best place to pick people up at. So be careful who you trust. Trust has to be earned. It has to be. You have to know the person for a long time. You get a feel for them. Know when they're going to flip out. You really don't know someone until you've been in an argument with them, until you've disagreed with them, until you've gotten in fights and stuff like that. And here's the thing: if the fight turns violent, or if he acts like he's going to turn violent, watch out for that. And then also watch out for Mr. Perfect. There's no such thing as Mr. Perfect. And if his homeboy says, oh yeah, this is a good guy, be even more careful. Because then it's like, oh, they've got a tag team going on. You really got to be really, really careful with who you date. And especially who you let have sex with you and who you let into your house and who you go into their house. I mean, we're not a little small tribal community. In tribal communities, everybody knows each other. Everybody's kind of held accountable to each other. Things like that. But in bigger cities, that system really doesn't really work that great. So be careful who you trust and who you spend your life with. Okay, be careful about this kind of stuff. It's easier to not have to get a divorce because you didn't get in the bad relationship in the first place. I would highly encourage not getting in a relationship in high school because you're both changing so much. Once you become an adult, things just become more complicated and they change for you, and just it gets bad. And then if you marry your high school romance, it's terrible. Most high school romances end in divorce anyway, so it's kind of like, and never ever ever say, oh, they're the one. That just means that you're being led by your emotions rather than reason and logic. Now, obviously, love has to play a part, but sometimes things are just not smart. Don't be afraid to get other people's opinions on stuff too. Sometimes your friends or your father will say, I just don't get a good feeling from this guy. And what we do is we get defensive. You don't trust my decision making. You were never there for me. Well, you don't know him like I do. It's like, well, maybe you're blinding yourself. It just might not be best. So, anyways, just a few quick pointers here. Don't have sex with strangers. One night stands are typically a terrible idea. They may sound really hot, but check it out. If that sounds so incredibly hot to you, just masturbate and move on. Because here's the thing: if you get entangled in a relationship that's just not great, that's not a great idea. And then every time that you have sex, it's really, from a medical standpoint, you're having sex with the people that they had sex with. So you're not just having sex with one person; you're having sex with a bunch of people. So there's that. You can get things like STDs that can really mess you up, and there's just a lot of things to that. And obviously, once again, the moral aspect. Don't date people who treat their parents or waiters disrespectfully. Watch how people treat other people. Oh, my family's dead. Oh, my family doesn't want anything to do with me. And why? Now, obviously that might be, but just don't be afraid to ask questions. Just because you want to like the person doesn't mean you should like the person. And this is what I'm talking about when I said that today's big idea is bad decisions will always yield bad results. And what we do is we mask our bad decisions because we really want to do the thing. Just because you really want to do it doesn't mean that it's a good idea. And so watch how they treat waiters. Watch how they treat how do they treat men versus how do they treat women. That might be some very telling information. How long have they been friends with their oldest friend? Not oldest as in age, oldest as in the longest amount. Okay, so who has been their friend the longest, and how long has that been? That's a better way of saying it. How do they treat pets? Do they have pets? Do the pets look lean? What's their history? How do you know that that's their history? People do lie, Know them for a while before you date them. And I'm not just talking about like a few weeks. I'm talking about like maybe a few years. You might say, I can't wait that long. It's worth it. If you get into a relationship and really screw yourself up, you'll be trying to build something on a foundation that's sand. For instance, if you try and build a relationship with an abuser or a manipulator, all that time and energy will be for nothing. Or you get with someone who maybe I can change them. Maybe they'll change in the future, and then you've been married 15 years and you hate each other and you end up in a divorce and the kids have to suffer for it. These are just things that don't let your heart have the final say so. It's often wrong. And by the way, your heart's kind of an idiot. Look at the past things that you've done because of your heart, and then look at what that could mean for your future, and then say, are these healthy patterns or are they not? Um, Always look at their previous relationships. How long were they with the person? Was it serious? Are they still in contact with the person? Is that going to be an awkward thing? Lots of different things there. Pay attention to their bad traits, and if you can't find any bad traits, you definitely do not need to be dating them, because here's the thing: there's no such thing as a perfect person. There's no such thing as a perfect person. Are they someone who cuts you off from others, such as your family or your friends? And do they always make you think that everything is your fault? That you're the one who's wrong in every single situation? Do they fail to listen to your ideas? Do they treat you like you're nothing but a status symbol? I mean, you really got to watch out for these kinds of things. When you try to have a conversation, do they really hear you and have a dialogue? Do they agree too quickly? You don't want a yes man with a partner. You want somebody who can explain their view, listen to your view, and who you can have a genuine conversation with. What was it like in their house growing up? I mean, these are just good things to know. We are often affected by others' decisions, and I'm not trying to say that every bad thing that we're having to live with is because of our own fault. That's not what I'm saying at all. In fact, if you notice what I said sometimes we feel bad because we keep making stupid decisions, but that's not always the case. Sometimes we are affected by other people's decisions. They make a stupid decision and it affects us. But how we choose to deal with it, that's on us. Maybe I'm in an unfair situation, maybe something bad happened to me, maybe something's going on that I didn't want to happen, but what am I going to do with it? How am I going to respond? Am I just going to give up and throw myself on the ground? I have one daughter who has a problem with autism, and she has a really hard time kind of knowing what to do with her emotions. And so whenever anything, scared, angry, anything, she'll open her mouth as wide as it'll go, like, and just like scream. It's just one of the most ear-piercing sounds you've ever heard. And the thing is, well, the thing is, I always tell her this. I say, if she's crying on the ground, I always say, stand up to cry. Stand up to cry. Because I'm trying to teach her, don't just give up, don't just shut down. I know it's hard, but you can't just shut down. I try and teach her, use your words. You know, tell me what you're feeling. Is it owie? Is it, try and explain to me what you're feeling. And obviously I say it in ways that she can understand. But it's that kind of ability to help her to not completely shut down just because she's having a problem, and to learn how to access that information, so that she can so she can know how to deal with it, and that kind of stuff. Because here's the thing: it's not her fault. It's not her fault. How she was born is not her fault. That's unfair. See what I mean? She's having to deal with something that she didn't do anything wrong. It's just something that she has to deal with. Much like me, I have to deal with anxiety and depression and all these different things. Why? Well, not necessarily a reason. Just because I was born like this. So lying on the ground and crying about it's not going to really help anything. I have to learn how to deal with it, how to move forward, all that kind of stuff. It's better than just pointing fingers. So, anyways. Pointing blame is what I mean to say. So maybe your father wasn't supportive, or maybe he was overly judgmental. Maybe you've had a lot of bad things happen to you. I have bad luck, is what some people say. Whatever. But here's the thing: what you choose to do with the effects that you're dealing with, okay? let me say it differently. What you choose to do affects the result you get. What you choose to do with it will always affect the result you get. So you might say, I don't like this result. Okay. So choose to act differently. Choose to do something differently. But it's not my fault. Okay. Didn't say it was. What are you going to do with it? So the verse of the day is from 2 Chronicles 7:14. It says this. Now, I know this is out of context, but the lesson is very much so still there. If my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sins. So there's kind of this verse is teaching this very important principle. Stop doing what you're doing, turn away from it, do something else, you'll get a better result. And obviously, like I know that this verse is talking about something else entirely. I get that, but the principle is still totally true. Turn from what you're doing, turn away from it and turn to something else. We're doing something else and getting a better result. So what can I do? Here's some action steps, okay? Now we're going to build on some past videos too. First off, regardless of whose fault it is, or who has wronged you, or what bad situation you're in, let that go. That's the first thing. Let it go. But you don't, I know. And guess what? I don't have to understand. Let it go. Let it go. It's in the past. You hold yourself back by making yourself into a victim. What sometimes we want to do, we want everybody to know how we were wronged and how everybody else is wrong and we're the only one who's right. Here's the thing. Stop seeing the world as owing you a living. You know, oh, it's not fair. Whoever said life was fair? Stop looking for everybody else to make you happy and stop looking for everybody else to provide for you. You get out and you go get a job. You go out and you go work to be a different person. Stop seeing the world as owing you something. Stop seeing yourself as a victim. Stop seeing it as, oh, the world has wronged me. Let it go. Start to see yourself as a survivor instead. Yeah, these things happened to me, but I rose above, and I'm gonna learn to be. I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna learn to be better. I'm gonna keep fighting. I'm not gonna give up. I was confined to one room of my house, and now I'm out biking. I went 50 miles this week. On one of my rides I went way more than that, but I mean on that one ride I went 50 miles straight without stopping or anything like that. That's kind of a big deal for me because I'm dealing with anxiety. I'm getting outside. I'm getting exercise. I'm no longer confined to a single room in my house. I mean, these are big steps. It's a big step for me. I didn't think I could ever do these things, and here I am doing them. I stopped seeing myself as a victim. I started seeing myself as a survivor. Yeah, these bad things happen, and I'm moving on. Analyze your life and find decisions and patterns that you make that you can change. It seems like I do this. When these kinds of things, I always tend to gravitate towards what gives me the most pleasure. And so because I do that, I miss a lot of good opportunities. I waste a lot of money. See what I mean? Start noticing those patterns. What kind of decisions are you making? Oh, I keep making the decision to get with people too quickly. I keep having rebounds from my rebounds. I need to learn to just deal with it before I get into a relationship. Analyze your life, analyze your decisions, analyze your patterns, and then see where you can make a change. And then lastly, don't waste your time with guilt trips. All these things I said in today and yesterday, you're going to be tempted to do the whole, oh, woe is me, I'm a total screw up, I can't do anything right. Don't waste your time with guilt trips. Move on. Let it go. If you're in the place of, oh, I'm just such a screw up, stop that nonsense. Stop telling yourself such lies. Stupid things to tell yourself, and it's even stupider to believe those lies. I really hope that this video was helpful. Don't worry, there are going to be less harsh lessons coming up quickly. So you guys have a great day, and I'll see ya!